Hello. Just let me know if y'all have any issues hearing me or any microphone trouble. I should be good to go. Last time I had my microphone muted for about 45 minutes. So hopefully that's not the case tonight. So this is the repository that I'm working in. It's the local music app. The link is also here on the main page, github.com/CeceliaCreates/local music app. I did go ahead and update some of the episode links that are in the repository if you want to go back and watch old stuff. So after the first two episodes, I basically switched it up because I was having issues progressing with all the different components, and in the interest of actually getting things done, I went ahead and removed the React aspect in the front end. Oh, thanks for letting me know. Is that better? If that's too loud, let me know. Otherwise, I can just leave it there. Hopefully, okay, awesome. Thanks for letting me know. And so basically my front end is just now HTML, vanilla JS, and I'm really going to be focusing more on building up the API and database connections. Decided that I had more of an interest in that aspect of it than the front end with React, especially since it's not necessarily like a very dynamic app that needs to be a single page application. So episode 3 essentially made all those changes, and then yesterday I spent some time streaming I was refactoring the code for object-oriented principles. So let's go ahead and get the code opened up here so we can take a look at it. And like I said, feel free to download the repository if you'd like to follow along. Oh yeah, the first thing actually, I need to go ahead and pull these changes I made to the README. Okay, and we'll get it opened up in Visual Studio. Okay, so yesterday I spent some time, and I'm just going to review that now because the audio did get cut off yesterday. But essentially, I installed Mocha and Chai in order to start including some unit tests, and I also created my first class. So before it was very like just functional, kind of telling it what exactly to do. So I added this artist class, which has two methods, validate and add, so that when the code for adding a new artist, we're actually creating a new instance of that class so that we can go ahead and access that validate method and then only add if it's valid. So we have a nice add method. However, we're still manually updating edit, and we have no delete class. So that would be the last one that I want to add. So as usual, we'll kind of start with a little demo of how the app is working currently, and then we can kind of go from there. So we'll go to localhost. So it's not pretty. It's literally just existing right now on the front end, but get our console open. Okay. Oh, I don't know why that's even there. Okay. So we have view artist right now. What this is just doing is populating a list from a JSON file. It's just the same artist over and over. We can go and we can add an artist. And this does have some data validation. So if we try and submit it without all the fields, we get an invalid entry. We submit, we get artist added. And then if we go back to view artist, I need to add some navigation buttons, but we can now see our new artist. But oh no, the image doesn't work. So let's go ahead and edit. So this just does like a very simple search based on the name and then just edit. So artist updated, and now we can go back to our list and we see that it's updated with the new photo. Okay, so that's how the app works as is right now. So before we were essentially just kind of, for example, in the ad, we were just like manually creating the artist data and pushing it through without any kind of validation. So by creating a level of abstraction with that artist, we were able to access some of those nice methods. So what I'd like to do today is extract out the edit method, write the delete method, and then so that'll give us essentially a fully functional server action, like with all of our routes. So we have our API routes and we have our HTML routes. So essentially what we need to do is we have a get, a post, and a put. So we do need to add a route to delete from our list and add that in the front end as well. So once we do that, we'll have like a fully functioning server and technically a UI. And the next step after that. So and then once we do that, I want to make sure that we add a unit test to our artist test. So we also have an artist test that tests the class, and right now it validates. It's testing the validation method when we have good data, and then we have bad data, and then it's also testing the constructor function. So I would also like to test the edit and delete once we get those set up today. So yeah, okay. So we'll go ahead and get started. Unless if anybody has any questions on what I'm doing, or I'm very much kind of like I'm a software developer, but I'm very much junior software developer. So very open to any kind of like feedback on design patterns that I'm using. I do work with C# and .NET for my day job. But I learned JavaScript in my boot camp, so I'm kind of doing this because I want to be able to keep those skills fresh. But some of the language and things that, especially around the object-oriented programming and then also the unit testing, I kind of am still carrying over from C#, like the arrange, act, and assert language, which I'm going to have to get used to. The other assertion libraries, the could and the should and the expect, because the should is what's used by Cypress, and I definitely want to get to the point where I have some good UI testing with Cypress on here. But okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our edits. So let me get we have our artist class, we have our edit.js. So really this is this method here. We can take a look at what we did with add. We basically just added that in. So let's go ahead and make an edit method. And it is essentially we're going to do the exact same thing, where we're taking this. Let me take a look at the add. How do I do the add? Okay, so we got to import artist if we're going to use this as a method instead. And we still want it to do the click event on its own. And then we don't necessarily, we do want to validate the data. And then, well, actually, if valid, then add. So here we don't have any kind of data validation. So let's just go ahead and grab this first. And so the edit method should only do one thing. So if we want to validate, we're going to do that separately outside. So what this is doing is it's taking the data. So we need to do it as this, because when we call it, it's going to reference the object, which is the instance of this class. So we need to put this in order to reference the object when it's called. Okay, so that's going to create the data that's going through to the API endpoint. And then it's going to respond with artist updated or something went wrong. However, I think that we want to validate this data before we send it through. So I'm going to pull this over to the side here. Okay, so this is how we have our add. What it's doing is it's waiting for the button for a click event. And then once that happens, it captures the data from the form. It creates a new instance of the artist class using that name, URL, and photo. It validates that instance, and then if valid, it adds the artist. Otherwise, it says a message of, invalid entry. So let's follow the same design pattern where we validate the data that's being created. So let me just take a look at the method that I have here. Okay. So we want to essentially go ahead and make a new artist, because that's going to give us access to the methods associated with the artist. And then const valid is going to be the same thing. We're going to do artist validate. And then if it's valid, So if valid is true, we'll go ahead and do artist dot edit. And when we pass through our edit, yep, okay, so that's just grabbing this off of that, which is already being set here. Perfect. Hey, good to see you again. Thanks for tuning in. Basically just kind of adding the edit and delete methods to our class, and then going to be writing some unit tests for those two methods as well. And then once we're done with that, that's like the API is done, so we can start working on the database, which is pretty exciting. I'm going to use SQLize because I love relational databases, and eventually I want users to have users, so it's important to kind of establish that early on. So oh yeah, then we're going to do the same thing. If it's not valid, we want to make sure we let the front end know. So we're going to grab our handy response p tag here, and we're going to set the inner text as just invalid entry. Okay, so let's see if that works. We didn't edit anything on the server, so we shouldn't have to restart it. So, whoops, okay. So let's just take a look at viewing the list. And so that was our edit function. So let's make sure that the edit still works. So we're going to edit Jenny Lewis, we're going to change the URL, and we're going to change it to this photo link. Oh, so cannot use import state outside of a module. Okay. All right, I did the same thing that I had wrong last time. Okay, so how did I get away with it? Outside a module. But it's working with the add. Document got element by ID. Okay. Let me just make sure it is working with my add. Let's go ahead and restart the server. Just start fresh with some fresh data. I know I should use like node monitor to restart my server up, which I will do at some point. It's on the list. Okay, so if I go to view artists, artist list, okay. Let's see, add artist, that seems to be working. Artist added, and then edit artist. Okay, so this is where I'm getting a cannot use import statement outside a module. So why am I not getting that with my add? Export default class artist, edit.js, import artist from components. What the heck? Just checking to see if there's any reason why I would be getting it for edit and not for add. Let's take a look. Maybe it's something to do with my HTML routes. Edit, public edit. Nope, that should be fine. API routes. Module.exports. Okay, but that's the thing is this isn't a module either. Import artist from /components artist.js. Document.getElement by ID. If valid, artist.edit. Okay. Well, let's see if I don't think it'll work is the issue. So, yeah. Okay, so I am getting that. Let's just see if there would be another reason why this would be throwing. Okay, that's right. I have to set the type as module. All right, I did the same thing with, okay, I forgot that step. I actually read this exact same article yesterday and didn't remember how I fixed it. So, okay, so that in the edit.html, you have to do type equals module when pulling your script in. Okay. Now, if I go to edit, there's no error. And artist updated. Lovely. Okay, cool. So that works. So yes, whenever you are using an import statement in your JavaScript, you need to define it as module in your HTML. I hopefully will not forget that a third time. So yeah, no, that's cool. I'm excited that this is working now. Let's go ahead and pop this out. And so we have our edit functionality. So let's go ahead and write a method for that, or a test for that. So let's see. So this is what the test that we have so far. And if this is too small or anything, just let me know. I can also zoom in. I think it just probably just depends on how big your monitor is. I've got like a huge TV monitor. So actually, let me just have it on one screen here. Okay. And I think I am going to go ahead and zoom in. I'm looking at the video and it looks like it's a little small. Okay, so control plus equals. Okay, so hopefully that's a little bit easier to read too. Okay, so right now we have a test that tests our constructor, and we have a validate valid and a invalidate invalid method. So we want to test now our edit method. So if we go back to our artist class, and we'll go ahead and close that out. We're testing our validate, we're testing our add. Okay, so we actually want to also test our add and our edit methods. So we have validate, we have the constructor, add, and edit. So let's get some tests written for those. So describe artist. So this is all essentially having to do with artist, the class. So I'm doing my test based on the class so that I can test the methods associated with it and also the properties. So we have validate. Let's go ahead and get a describe going for our add method. So describe add test function. It's interesting with these, it's being so big. It's like right in my, it's great actually. I can see everything. Okay, so should respond with successful, oh, you know what? Actually, what's really important isn't the response that I get. It's that the data has been added. So we're going to want to be able to pull that in. So let me just make sure that, yeah, so we're pulling in that component. We'll be able to create state with it. Okay, so it should add submitted artist to artist list. So arrange, act, assert. Okay, so we need to create our artists that we're going to be adding. So const artist equals new artist, and we're just gonna say the Beatles. We're gonna actually we're just gonna copy all of this here. Oops. All right, so we created our artist, and then we want to add our artist. So we have artist.add, which does a post to our endpoint, which, if we take a look at our API routes, our post it's just pushing it to the artists.json, and it is logging it. So we're going to need to bring this in as well. Okay, so when we add, it's supposed to push to this JSON array. So this is actually the act. Okay. So we have an artist, we add that artist, and we are asserting now that artists, the array, I don't know, we could test it a couple ways. We could say .length, we can say that, we could filter to find that instance. So maybe we'll do that. So artist.length. Okay, so we do artist, and then we are pulling up artist.length minus 1, so the last index because we pushed it. Dot name. Okay, all right, so const artist, and then we're going to say sorry, I'm trying to think. Okay, and then const expected. Okay, yeah, I have it. I know what I'm supposed to do. Okay, assert.r equal. I got this. Assert dot. What did I do? Assert dot equal. Sorry, I was just typing in C#, and that's uses r equal. And then so it's going to be artist. Well, you know what? I know the length, but I don't, just in case we never, in the future, I want it to be sturdier. Okay, so it's going to be artists, and then artists.length minus 1, dot name is going to be equal to artist.name. Okay, this should make sense. So same thing here, artists. So this is essentially saying the last item in the array, because we're taking the length minus 1. Dot name is going, dot URL. Thank you. Visual Studio Code is going to equal the artist.url. And the last artist in the array of artists, again, artist.length minus 1. I know I shouldn't be typing this out, but this stuff helps me remember. Dot photo is the same as artist.photo. Okay, quick little typo check here. These are all plural artists. Oops, my phone thinks I'm talking to it. Okay, link that one. Okay, so we have something to test our add method. So let's run that. Let's see if that works. I'm going to do a new terminal. npm. Oh my gosh. Nope. Oh, who knows what I just did. Okay, terminate batch job, yes. npm test. Woo. Okay, so let's see what happened. What did I do? Oh yeah, so I have something goofy going on. It's okay. I don't know why it doesn't like this in the testing suite, but if I just do this exports dot artist equals artist, then the tests run fine. I'm sure that there's a reason for this, but I will not troubleshoot that on screen and make you watch. Okay. Else throw error. Cannot find module data / artist.json. Oh, it's because it's a different path from where I am here. Okay, so this is actually going to be / app / data / what's the name of it? Artist.json. All right, third time's the charm. Third time's the charm. Getting good at reading error messages has been okay. All right. Fetch is not defined. Should add. Okay, so at artist.add. Okay. So it's trying to run artist.add, but fetch is not defined. So fetch isn't native in Node. I'm guessing maybe that's why it's having trouble running. Because I have to pull it in probably. So artist.add. Where are you at? Okay. Yeah, so we may end up having the same issues, but I wonder if there's a way for me to just like I wonder if it's because it's I guess because it's running it in Node instead of running it in a browser. So it's taking the JS code as Node code and not as and that's also probably what's happening with my artist method. I'm sorry. With this guy. Nope. Oh yeah, they wanted me to add like an artist class on the test side. And why I have to do this export start artist because the export default is probably of like a JavaScript thing instead of a Node thing. Okay, that's okay. So we can make this work temporarily by using something called node fetch package. And we can save it as a development dependency for running the tests, but we shouldn't necessarily need it in production. So interesting. I would be like super interested in hearing some ways around this to kind of handle like where the test is being run, because that looks like it's kind of giving me some issues. So I'll do some research on this, and if anybody has any ideas, I'd love to hear them. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and we'll do npm install node fetch, and then we're going to save it as development dependency. Okay, and then so now in our artist.json, we can do const fetch equals require, and then node fetch. Okay, so I don't think, how do I view the terminal again? I think it's terminal, control backtick. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Okay. Some more things happen. Okay. So I'm guessing, let's take a look. Let's not guess. Let's look. Okay, so for our add method, we are saying that artists at the end dot name. Okay, so artist dot add should be taking this Yeah, I'm guessing because it's not actually like updating the JSON. That's why. Okay, so we're gonna do this a different way. Instead of using the existing, we're just gonna like pull that in and then we're gonna update it. So, okay, so we have the artist, and we're gonna say const artists equals. I'm sorry. So we have lit artists up here. Okay. Because this is gonna actually run it and post it. Okay, so let's first test and see if we get a response. And this returns the response, right? API routes. So add res end. Okay, so we should get a response. So response equals let's just try something here. Assert dot equal response dot status, and then like 200. I don't know. Let's just see what that responds with. Because that'll at least give us some insight into how to make a better test. Okay. All right. So this is not actually returning anything. What is a good way to test this method? Okay, so it's taking the response. And this is setting. It says that there should be a response.data. So, and my server is still running, I think. No, it's not. Maybe let me try that. I don't know if that should make a difference or not. Okay. I wonder if I can just like, can you console log instead of a test? Well, I'm going to find out. Huh. Okay, that's weird. Okay. Only absolute. Okay. All right. Well, how are we testing validate? Because that's something that just happens within the script. It doesn't actually have an API call. So, you know what? Okay. We don't really actually need to test the URL. We just need to test that the method is doing what it's supposed to do. So the method does something. It makes this data, it does an API call, and then it sends back a response. And then something went wrong. But it doesn't return anything. So there's not really a way to test it without actually like making that call. So, unless so then then response is I'm setting this, and then why don't I return the response? So now let me see, response.status. Well, let me just go ahead and try and assert. We'll try and assert. So assert dot equal response dot status, and like 200. But at least it'll say like what the value is that's coming back. And then control backtick to pull up our terminal. and npm test again. Okay, all right, so let's see, it's running. Okay, so it still can't receive status of undefined. It's supposed to return the response, artist.add. You know what, maybe because I didn't get a response. Okay, so if there is a response, but if there's not a response, let me see. Text, okay. And this is janky, but it's just if response, like, does not exist. Yeah, see, is that normal? I don't know. Okay. So if response does not exist, then return, return, false. This is where the benefits of like not needing something to be strongly typed is helpful, because I can return a false for a method that's like actually adding something. Don't do that. That's bad. Anyway, so we're going to say that response expected, this is going to be janky, but expected equals false. And then I also kind of just want to like console log response and see what it says. But expected undefined to equal false. Okay, so response is undefined. Okay. Let me get this out of here. I think we need to start with a new approach. I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, so it should add some R to the as list. Okay, so we're taking a look at how we do this other thing. So validate, we're creating an artist, we expect it to be true. Validate returns a Boolean, so that makes it easy. Basically, it's just checking if it's valid. Add does not return anything. It just does something. And it does something tricky. So then response. I think I probably need to have some kind of like try catch method. Okay, so I'm gonna do some more research on testing. Actually, well, I don't know. I'll do like a really quick Google search, but like, how to unit test API calls. How to unit test your API. Okay, so this is something that's like way more complicated than I was thinking, which is fine. So That's good. It means that I need to actually like use some stuff to well, so this actually may be a good instance where of testing the API. I instead of using a unit test, I instead use something like Cypress or Selenium in order to test that it's actually working. So we can go ahead and test that at a future date. But we do have our edit method. So let's go ahead and add our delete method, and we can test that it works in production, which we already did. But before I go, and I'll definitely need to create some kind of API testing to the methods that do stuff. Whereas validate doesn't actually make any API calls. So that's easier to test. That's good to know. Okay, so let's not worry about that right now, the artist test. But let's get our delete method set up. So we're using Express for the API route. So that's what this this app comes from. And that's actually in our server.js file defined app equals express. And then so we're using, this is pulling in the API routes, and then it's immediately calling them in order to set up those functions. So we have our app.get, which returns the list. We have our app.post, which creates an artist. And then we have an app.edit, which updates the artist. So now we want to do a delete. So let's take a look at the Express documentation. Expressjs.com. And let's look for delete. Make sure that we're using the syntax right. Okay, so app.delete path and then the callback. So send, return. Okay, so pretty much the same way that we thought we would. And then what does it look like on my delete page? Okay, so what I need to do is actually I need to add like a button that just says delete artist on the edit page probably. Oh, or maybe the artist page. Okay, I think the easiest thing to do is right now is I have a button that says submit. So I'm going to change that to say edit. And then I'm going to change this to be edit. And then I'm also going to have input type equals submit ID equals delete with the value of delete. And so if I go to the edit.js now, I need to change this to edit. So it's grabbing, instead of the submit ID, it's grabbing the edit ID. Okay, and then we need to essentially duplicate this now for the delete button. So delete. Okay, so we're going to take the name, the URL, and the photo. We really don't need all that information. I mean, like, we definitely need to add some more data validation and things like that later on. But for now, we can just say that we grabbed the name. Wait, well, no. What do I have on the edit? Take everything on the edit. Artist name. I feel like I don't need all of it, but okay, that's okay. All right. So delete. We're taking the information, making a new artist. So like we don't even need to do that. We literally could just take the name. I'm going to make it as simple as possible to start. Taking the name. And we're just going to send that name to our endpoint. Okay, so this is going to be a delete method here. So delete. So it's validating the artist. And then it's delete. And so this, I say we're going to take in a name. And we're essentially going to do a fetch / API / delete. Method is going to be, okay, so let's look up I don't know if fetch API, let's see, has a delete or if it's just like a post. Okay, let's see. Okay, so there's a delete method, it looks like. Okay, cool. So let's try that. How y'all doing over there? Okay. Oh, hey, somebody new. Hello. Okay, so we're writing our delete method here. Delete headers is content type. So I'm using the fetch API, JSON. Oh, which reminds me, I need to go ahead and remove this because I didn't end up needing that because I'm not going to do unit tests about the API methods. Okay. So we're sending essentially where the body is just going to be the name. That's all we really need. JSON.stringify body. I'm sorry, not body. Name. Okay, and then .then based on the response. Console log the response. Const p. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and the same thing. We're going to grab this. And we're going to say this status is good. We're going to say artist deleted. Okay, so now we got to write this endpoint, this API / delete. So, oh yeah, we're passing this method through. That's what the edit.js. We're grabbing the click, we're passing the name through. And, oh, so in order to get the delete method, we are going to need to create the artist. Well, do we need to do this? Yeah, okay, so const artist equals a new artist with name. And then artist.delete name. And we're not validating that. We're just doing that for now. Okay. And then, so we're going to get the click event. We're going to run default. We're going to save the name. We're going to create a new artist with that name. And then we're going to use that delete method and pass the name through, which is then going to take that name. It's going to send a delete API request to the delete endpoint with the body of the name. It's going to respond by grabbing that paragraph element, and it's going to set this that paragraph text as either artist deleted if we get a 200 response, or it's going to set it as something went wrong if we don't. Yeah, so I'm working with vanilla.js on the front side. So this is the fetch API. And then I'm using Express with Node on the back end in order to handle those API requests. So I initially actually was going to use React, but I'm just a lot more comfortable with vanilla.js, especially since I didn't necessarily need a lot of like dynamic responsiveness in the front end. So yes, this is all vanilla JS and HTML on the front end. So if we go to our API routes, here's where we're going to do our app.delete. So app.delete, hopefully this is actually a method. Okay, and then /API/delete. It's a function of the request and the res. Okay, so yep. So const artist name equals rec.body, and then const index is going to be find index of artist dot name equals artist name, and then we're going to just pop the delete the index, the item in that index of the array. So I can never remember which one actually like deletes, like mutates the array. I think it's pop, but let me just double check. Oh, that removes the last index. So let's see. Remove array element by index JavaScript. Splice. Okay, all right, sweet. So this is, you use splice and then you put the index. So that's replaces. I don't want to do that. I want to pop it off. Removing. Okay, it says you can remove it. Okay, deleted items. And it returns an array containing the deleted elements. If only one element is removed, an array of one element is returned. But it does modify the, okay, it does change the contents of an array. Okay. Okay, so remove one element from index 3. So it's just splice 3, 1. Okay, so that's what I want to do. I want to artists.splice at index 1. Okay, yep, that makes sense. And then we're going to, okay, so for the edit, I returned the edited, okay, I mean, yeah, this should be fine. And then I can just do res.end. And then let's say I could do a little bit of validation here. So I could say, for example, so like const artist, so I'll just do length equals artists.length. And then so if I just do like oh, you know what I can do? Actually, nope, I lied. This splice returns to deleted items. So I can say const deleted equals artist.splice. So I can return the deleted element, and I can do that only if there is an issue. I mean, if it actually is a response. So I can say, so if deleted dot length is like, you know, greater than or equal to 1, then res.json deleted. Otherwise, else res.error, I think. How do you send an error? with express. Res dot error. Send error. Okay, so these are all the res. Okay, so res dot res dot status. Okay, so I could do like res dot status dot send bed request, like something like this. Perfect. Else send out status and just say, yeah, like bad request. That's fine. Okay, so that's gonna come back, and so then our method is taking the response, and it's saying if it's 200, artist deleted. Otherwise, something went wrong. Okay, so let's try this. See if it works. I'm sure something is gonna break, but then we'll find out what it is. Okay, so pop does also mutate. Okay, yeah. So I think also that would have been pop takes off the last one, and not necessarily by index. But yes, that's good to know. I at some point I will. Okay, let's see. Oh, I got something goofy going on here. My API routes. Yep. Delete. Okay. If deleted, else, and then I got this, and I got to put a parentheses. Yeah, so knowing all those array methods is really difficult. It's really awesome that you kind of know what they do. So I need to work on that definitely. Okay, let's try this again. Node server.js. All right, we are listening. My beautiful, lovely UI. So we'll just run through it. View artist. We'll add an artist. Okay. Does not provide an export name default. This keeps happening to me. Export default, and then I think I could probably just do it like this actually. Exports.default equals artist. Let me try that first. Nope. Okay. I'm gonna have to do it that other way. ES6. Why? Okay. No, it's actually awesome. That's something that I have to do when I'm testing because it's Node syntax versus JavaScript ES6 syntax. Okay. No more error message. So we're gonna add our artist. Artist added. You can see that that's still there. Okay. So let's go to edit artist and let's try and delete. So something went wrong. That's okay. So what's the response? Bad request. Okay, so something was goofy. Let's find out why. Probably didn't do some console logging. Classic. Okay, so if deleted.length is greater than or equal to 1, so it should have found the artist by artist name. Okay, so let's do some console logging. Let's find out what's going on. So console.log rec. Let's just start there and let's try running it. But this is my node side, so I'm going to restart my server. That's okay. Okay, so here's the unexpected token in JSON at position 0. Okay. Where did that come from? Okay, so it added, and then at json.parse. Okay, that's libraries. Where did it come from? Okay, well, something's going on with in JSON at position 0. Let's see what we're logging. Let's start with that. So I restarted my server. Let's go back. So we should just have yeah, so that's for ES6. So import and export is ES6. So that's like the same thing that lets you do like the classes and the modules and that kind of thing. So as long as you set in the HTML, so let me, yeah. So you set the type as module when you're importing your script file, and that allows you to use like import and export, and like basically lets you treat it like a module. From like my basically functional understanding, I could be, not necessarily using it the best way, but that allows me, because I wanted to use classes because I use C# and I'm really comfortable with classes, so I refactored it to make a class. But in order to do that, that's where I'm kind of doing the export and importing. Okay, so going back here, we have our artists. Let's go ahead and add our Jenny Lewis. So we have something to try and delete. And then we're going to go to edit. Okay, and let's see. So what logged here? Okay, so it's still something to do with our, okay, so it didn't even log the request. We just got an issue right away. So let's take a look at our delete. So let's start, let's just make this really simple. So first we're going to, okay, so else bad request. That's fine. Let's comment this out. And then let's go ahead and comment this out too. So all we want to do right now, we'll go ahead and we'll just comment all this stuff out, is console log the request and then res.end. Just see what we have coming over. Yeah, if you actually, if you like Vanilla.js or if you're interested in learning more, there's this guy, Chris Ferdinandi. He's like the Vanilla.js guy. And he has this like Vanilla.js Academy. But he's also really responsive on Twitter. So if you like tweet him questions and stuff, he was really helpful for me. But it has like all the, so he has an academy, but he also has a lot of like free resources as well. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. This is the academy, but I think if you just go to like vanillajs.com. Nope. Chris Ferdinandi. Go Make Things. That's okay. So Go Make Things is his main website, where you can kind of get like the free tips and learn JavaScript and stuff. And then he has Vanilla.js Academy if you want an actual course. I've heard really good things about it. I haven't taken it myself. Okay, so now we have restarted our server. View artists, boom. Add artist. And then we go and we edit our artist. And we hit delete. And we see what, okay, so it's still at unexpected token in JSON at position 0. So this is not even, it's not even like running the methods. There's an issue. Okay. Yep. Okay. Oh, okay. I think I know what it is. It's because I'm sending the request as like JSON, but I don't think that's right. Like, I don't think I need to JSON. Yeah. I don't think so I'm passing a name. So I think instead of passing in the name, I think I'm just going to like do the same thing where I grab the name. This dot name. Well, when I'm doing edit, I'm grabbing the stuff. I'm making the artist. Okay, so I'm going to do that same thing for delete. I'm guessing that's giving me some issues, and that's probably why. I tried to do it easy. Okay, so we want to pass through everything. Yeah. So I'm not actually sending a JSON object. I'm sending just a string. But I think I'm going to be better off if I send everything anyway, because eventually I can go ahead and validate it. So I'd rather just make it a body, or make it a new artist and send it, instead of just sending over that one field. So, oops. So this is actually going to create this artist, and then I'm going to just do artist.delete. Oh, I already have that right there. But instead of passing through the name, I'm just going to have it where it's going to just operate off of this state the same way that I have my edit. So I'm going to grab this data basically here, and I'm just going to go ahead and send data the same way that I'm doing with my edit. Okay. And then now on my API route, I can do kind of the same thing. I can even just find it here. Okay, actually, yeah. Okay, so sending through a JSON object. The artist name is going to be rec.body.name. And then the index is going to be where I find it. And then deleted is going to be the returned object. Okay, so I think that this should hopefully work now. So let me uncomment that, restart the server, and try again. So you use mostly React and React Native. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm learning React also. I learned it a little bit in my boot camp, but then haven't used it in like 6 months. Where I work, they're using React Native to build out a new app, but I do more like working on the existing web and mobile apps. So I'm working with C# and AngularJS, but I definitely want to learn more React in general, because the AngularJS is like MVC, which is really consistent with the .NET and C# stuff that we're doing, but React is a lot more of the components. So I'm trying to learn more about like JavaScript classes and things of that nature, and managing the state, because I think that that'll probably help me with React as well. I think I need to restart this because I forgot to save that before I started it. Okay. Got my artist. We'll add the Jenny. We'll go to edit. Artist deleted. Okay. So if I go to view artist, she's not there. Yay. I know I need to use like NodeMon or NodeDaemon. Like I think I can I've heard of it, but I haven't actually used it. I think I could just install it. Like, and if y'all don't mind, like, I'm happy to do that now. NodeDaemon. If anyone can tell me how to pronounce it, if it's NodeMon or NodeDaemon or any some other variation. So we can just install it globally. NodeMon. Okay, awesome. Thank you. I don't necessarily talk to a lot of people in person. I like I'm always working online as I work from home. So I don't always know how to pronounce everything. Just type it. Okay, so we just do NodeDaemon or NodeMon and then your Node app. So I could just do, okay. Yep, so NodeMon server.js. Okay, oh, it's installing. As I say, this may have been a mistake because it may take a while, but no, it's actually pretty good. Okay. Oh, do you work from home also? Or do you just not know how to pronounce things like me? C# at work. Oh, you're using Xamarin. Yeah, C# is, I think it's cool because it taught me a lot more, both. Yeah, that's funny. I'm like my social skills are getting worse and worse since I've started working from home. But it's this I think this is probably helpful, like doing stuff like this. But yeah, our existing apps are built with like Cordova. Trying to make up C++. So like my situation's kind of crazy because I did a coding boot camp at Georgia Tech where I learned JavaScript and React and Node. And then I immediately, like a week later, got my first dev job, and it was C Sharp, .NET, AngularJS. So like totally different. So I was still kind of learning everything at once. But I think that C Sharp, I'd known JavaScript before my boot camp, though, probably for about a year. I'd been teaching myself. So I actually kind of like C Sharp because it adds a lot of boundaries. Like you have to really plan stuff in advance. When I'm doing something in JavaScript, I can literally just like start coding and get stuff working right away and then test it right away. Whereas with C Sharp, it's like I have to decide what my classes are going to be and my methods and get that all coded first and like test it with unit tests before you even get to the point that you can like try running anything in the browser. Yeah, so the OOP, then that's kind of something that like I'm that C Sharp really helped me with is the OOP. Yeah, so the models too. So like if you do like full stack and you're familiar with setting up like a SQL database, um, like that's kind of like I was familiar with that. So that's kind of how I've been approaching the models is the same kind of way where you have the type of data that it can take in, what the like properties are and things like that. I learned that when I learned SQL and SQLize. So I've been trying to kind of borrow that knowledge for dealing with the models and stuff with C Sharp. But yeah, it does. It just takes a lot more planning. Like you can't get up and running as quick, like nearly as quickly as you can with JavaScript. Um, so it's definitely something that it's like more of a learning curve. But I was just like in crazy learning mode anyway. So it was all a blur. Yeah, Mongoose. So we use Mongoose at my boot camp for the NoSQL stuff, but I just really like SQL, and we use it at work. We use SQL Server, and so I haven't done anything with NoSQL in such a long time. So, but Mongoose is really good because it lets you set them up like in the app as opposed to having to do it manually in the with like MongoDB. So I liked Mongoose a lot. Okay, so we were able to Mongoose allowed to do code first approach. Yeah, I think that so Mongoose, I think because it runs in like in Node and it uses the same kind of like JavaScript object notation type setup for the collections. So the collections are organized like objects, like in JavaScript. So it's a lot easier to, I think, like approach if you know JavaScript as opposed to SQL with like its relational is like a whole different design pattern. It's like a whole different ball game. That's like if you're used to Excel, like that's kind of like what I approached it as. Um, but yeah, so as long it's just like the typing, like for its, so it's like classes, models, and types, and then also like having to define a return type also for methods. Oh, and then the things with like public and private, that definitely trips me up a lot. I like make new classes all the time in C Sharp, and then I can't access them later. It's because I forgot to put public on there. So it's just like very strict. There's a lot more things that can break. Allow migrations. I don't necessarily know that much about MongoDB and migrations. I don't know if Londe, if you can answer that question. Because I never had to do any kind of migrations before with Mongo, especially with Mongo and Mongoose. Okay, so it doesn't do migrations. Yeah, you can. Okay, so it looks like NodeMon is definitely working, by the way, which is very helpful. So we can add our artist. We can edit an artist. Edit. And we can say, you know what? Boom, let's just delete that artist. That artist sucks. Um, SQL and Post, yeah. So yeah, so I guess you do have to have some kind of SQL to do a migration. But from what I understand, like NoSQL databases are super quick to get up and running because you don't have to have models. You can just store data however you want. So, but if you have any kind of like relation between your and your data, then which I think most things do have relationships, which is I think is why I like SQL so much. But because it kind of makes it easier to manage those. But it can also be like get really unwieldy when you have tons of tables. Okay, so we have our methods essentially. So we have, I wasn't able to write unit tests for our methods. Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. So you can still do relationships with NoSQL. It's just, okay. I'm guessing there's probably like a lot more nuanced querying that has to take place. So we have, so right now we have a fully RESTful app. We can get the artist, we can add it, we can edit it, and we can delete it. Which is, it's not a very pretty app. We do have a class with some methods on there. We have a unit test that tests the methods that don't have to do with the API. I'm going to have to use a different type of testing suite for that, I think. Probably Cypress, because that's what I've been toying around with. And I think that would work really well with this kind of app. Okay, so we have our basic functionality. The next thing that we would need to do is, we could do some data validation on the front end. We could get the database set up. Is there anything in particular that anyone would want to see done? I probably won't actually get the database set up. Yeah, so this is Vanilla.js and HTML on the front end, and then it's Node with Express on the back end. And then I'm going to be using a SQL database, and I'm going to be using SQLize to set that up. So I probably won't get started on SQLize tonight because it's been going for like about a little bit now. But I'm trying to think if there's anything that I should do like to clean up the API. If not, then we can go ahead and get started with getting the database set up. I did have like a SQLize database set up initially because this was going to be a MERN-stack app. It was going to have React. But I decided that I didn't really care too much about the front end. It didn't need to be pretty. I was more interested in building up the API. So that's why it has like that really gross HTML buttons. And then maybe later on I can add React to make it look prettier, and do it like as like an SPA instead. But for right now, like I've known HTML for like a long time. I learned it back in high school. So I'm very comfortable with HTML. And then I learned Vanilla.js, basically through like Free Code Camp and Codecademy. So pretty comfortable with that too. So I don't mind not using React too much. For styling, I think I probably would eventually end up using like I do want eventually to make it React. And then I would probably I've used Material UI, has like a React library that I've used before in a different application. I can actually show you that one if y'all are interested. That one is built with React. So that is Icebreaker Bingo. Okay, so I guess so. This is just like Icebreaker Bingo. I'll run it locally though, so y'all can see. So Icebreaker Bingo code. Okay, so this is a React app. It doesn't do a whole lot initially, but okay, I'm just letting it get started up. Let me remember what my start commands are. So this one uses Material UI components, and then I'm also doing styled components. So like I have styled cards, and that's using Material UI core styles, Material UI code. So I'm using some of the components, and then I'm also importing like styled. So they have a styled components library as well. So let me just start this up so y'all can see what it looks like. I think I just do npm run, but let me double check my package.json. Okay, so just npm start. I don't use React too much, but I want to get better at it. I feel like I'm definitely more drawn towards like middle and back end type stuff, but I want to be full stack, so All of my front end is mostly like old school CSS and HTML. Okay, so let's look starting up the app. So the only thing about the components is that the way that I have it right now, they're not like very responsive. So what do you use Redux for? Yeah, I'm the same way. I like what you saw, like this little HTML buttons is like that's fine for me. But okay, it's for state management. Okay, yeah. So I definitely need to. So this app, it's like a bingo game essentially, but it's made to like where you meet people. So it's we do a paper version of it with this networking group that I do, and basically it's like you have bingo cards with prompts and you try and find somebody who fits that prompt. So you can see I'm just like storing my state now in app, which isn't great. It's pretty janky actually. And I have like the name saved. It's actually it's pretty gross. Don't judge me too much on this code. I haven't done too much with it. Um, yeah, so Vue, I've heard really good things about Vue. Okay, so it's finally opened up. So, yeah, so they don't like look super, and this doesn't look too bad. Okay. I don't know why this isn't like completely centered. But basically, so you find somebody, you're like at a party and you have this like on your phone and you find somebody who's a vegan and, you click on it, you can like enter their name and email address. So let's say like, oh, I met Jason and he works at Microsoft at this networking event. And then you just save it. And so Jason email, and then you can also update it. So like, oh, he actually spells it like Jason. I spelled it wrong. Then you can update. And then so it has that saved. So eventually, obviously, like what I would like to do with this state is have a list where you can say like, send contacts or save contacts, and it like sends an email or something to yourself where you can save contacts, so that after the event you can go like, oh, I met Jason, I met Jason, and he was a vegan, and then like it'll save that prompt as well. So this is what I have. So but this is all using Material UI. So like this, let me go. So my components here. So I have so like bingo header is literally just like typography. So it has a grid component, which I like because I'm really comfortable with Bootstrap. I used Bootstrap a lot back in the day, so I'm very comfortable with like grid layouts. The contents of the cards are not. They're coming from a JSON file, so this could be updated. So like ideally, also what I'd like to do is add a shuffle function. So I have another project. I did a lot of projects when I was in my boot camp. This is, I think it's called like Community React, or maybe it's called React Clicky Game. I have to find it. Oh, it's called React Community Game. Cool. And I think this one's actually deployed somewhere, so we can actually see how it works. So this one has, so it uses the same, okay, kind of a thing where it's just like generating the images from JSON, but it has a shuffle algorithm. Oh, thanks for the follow. Yeah, so it has a shuffle algorithm. So whenever like you refresh, it shuffles them, and it's just like a memory type game basically where you click on a character. But I want to take that same shuffle algorithm and apply it here so that the bingo items aren't always the same, obviously. And it's also like not actually bingo because there's not rows set up with BINGO, so you don't like win the game. It's just taking the concept of finding people that match something. But yeah, so ideally, and then it could even be like customized. So this is like general, like works remotely, first year in town. But for Atlanta, I'm in Atlanta, we have like first year in Atlanta, or like, from the north, or, has never seen snow or something like that. So you can kind of regionalize it. Or if it's something company specific, you could be like, or like local, you can be like, oh, like loves Chick-fil-A, or like is more of a Starbucks person than Dunkin', or if you're in the Northeast, so I used to live in the Northeast, like Dunkin' Donuts. So my boot camp, I would say that it was expensive, but it was worth it for me. I tell people all the time that like everyone's boot camp experience is super different. So I did Georgia Tech, which is part of Trilogy. So they do a lot of the college associated ones. And I did full time. So I went, it was 3 months, it was 12 weeks full time. So I went every single day. And I paid all at once. They don't have any kind of, oh no, there's tons of Dunkin' Donuts outside of the Northeast, but they're from Boston. So it's like everyone there's obsessed with Dunkin' Donuts. And I used to live in Massachusetts and Connecticut, and I'm used to seeing them everywhere. But in Atlanta, I have to go like 15 or 20 minutes to find one. But there's two Starbuckses within like 3 minutes of my house. So I just kind of, I miss that weak coffee. It used to get me through all winter, but that's okay. I don't have to deal with snow anymore. Um, but yeah, so the boot camp, I would say like it was actually one of the cheaper ones, but they didn't have any financing options the same way that like General Assembly has like the deferred payment or income share, that kind of thing. So this one was just like very straightforward. But I will say like I already had some coding experience going in. Yeah, okay, so there's 15 weeks. Yeah, so like 12 weeks is definitely one of the shorter ones, especially for full time. But that's why like I did it because I wanted it to be like done quickly. But I already had coding experience going in. I've known HTML since high school, and I've known WordPress for a long time too. So I knew like a little bit of jQuery. So and I spent about a year working on stuff before I did the boot camp. Maybe like not a full year, maybe like 6 months, but it was definitely worth it for me. I applied, basically spent 12 weeks of my life like dedicated to coding, and I did a lot of networking. I did a lot of learning on my own, and was able to get a job like pretty quickly. But it's Atlanta. I already have a master's degree I have an MBA, so that definitely helps a lot. So it just depends. Yeah. So like if you already it just kind of depends. Like also like I had a really good teacher. That makes a huge difference. So I would like definitely recommend seeing if you can sit in on a class or anything like that beforehand to get a sense of like if that teaching style works for you. Because I've also heard from people that like if they get stuck with a bad teacher, it kind of just sucks. um, but yeah, I mean, and then there's some people too who like did not do a boot camp and taught themselves, and they were able to find jobs. So it just kind of depends on what your learning style is. For me, I needed something to help me focus. Basically, like I knew that I wouldn't like spend a lot of time after work doing it. So I needed to kind of just like force myself to spend 3 months dedicated to it and commit to it. So that's why I did the boot camp. So it was worth it for me, but I would definitely say like your mileage may vary. Okay, yeah, so this is the components, and then let's take a look at the code. So they're being generated from JSON. But so I have bingo item, which is a styled card. So it's taking the card component from Material UI, but then it allows you to style it by just adding like CSS to it. So that's where I put the gradient on. And same thing, I have a completed item, which is the styled card, which is basically just changes the color. And then there's also the built-in, like there's typography and it has variants like body one. So if you just like look at the docs, it's pretty self-explanatory. I will say that like they're not as responsive out of the box as I would have liked. Have a good night. Thanks again for watching. Yes, I would say that they're not as responsive out of the box as I would have liked. So there is the grid item that's set up, and it's like the same thing as Bootstrap essentially, where you can just say like how many columns you have, and it's automatically response. And yeah, and if I don't know if you stream at all, but I'll definitely give you a follow. And or if you ever want to, if you ever want, if I'm working on something React specific, I'll definitely like make sure to put that in the header. So one of my goals was to finish this because we can actually use it for our events. I'm on the leadership team for Out in Tech in Atlanta, and we do a lot of like socials and things like that. But I definitely need to manage my state better. This is really gross. So I want to check out, I think you said it was Redux, right? Yeah. I want to check out Redux then to manage that state, because as like the app develops better, I'm definitely going to need to be able to like grab this stuff and then send it out. And then also right now you can't like click back. You can update it, but once you click it this way, you can't like go back, which kind of sucks. So I want to add like a little back arrow. Also like see how the card changes. Like it's not like a set height. You can make it flex to like fill 100%, but I don't know. Yeah, so it's not as reactive like it's not as responsive outside of the box as I would like. So I did get some. I made a post on Twitter asking for some um, recommendations of other libraries. Let me see. Let me just go to my profile. And like what always happens is I make a post on Twitter and then I get a lot of great responses and then I don't have time to actually implement them. I don't know. There's like not a way to search your own tweets. But yeah, so I got a couple of other like recommendations of different libraries that I might try. And well, once I find it. But it's a yeah, so it's a okay. Oh, there's me working on that. It's probably around here somewhere. But anyway. Yeah, so there's a couple other ones too that I've heard are good. Let's see. Redux depends, though, not worth implementing Redux for small projects. Okay, cool. Redux hooks is pretty easy to set up. I haven't used any kind of hooks yet with React at all, but I'm interested in learning about them. So that might be something where I have another React app idea that's going to be a lot more work, and that one would definitely be. I'm actually thinking of building that one in Ionic with React. It's I don't know if y'all have used Ionic at all, but it seems pretty cool. I don't know if it's on this system though. I think I have it in my other. Yeah. Yeah, no, so that's on my other account. I don't know if I always have everything set up in the same account. But Ionic is cool because it's like platform. So you can use it with React, Vue, and then also with Angular. And then you can deploy it to Apple and Android. Because I have trouble with, so I develop on a Windows. And so like at work, we used React Native. And it was really like tough for me to get Android Studio set up with React Native because we have like code that's non-native code. And but Ionic looks really promising because you kind of just write it in React and then it deploys to Android or Windows or Apple, no matter what machine you're on. So, because right now, like I have no way of developing like for iOS without having to use like a virtual machine or something. So, okay, yeah. So for functional programming, yeah, that's kind of another thing that it's like definitely. It seems like it's more like event driven and things running a certain sequence. So I would be kind of worried about managing some of that aspect of it. So, but yeah, but I mean, I'm kind of at the point too where everything is still so new that I never, like, I'm not like, and I don't mind learning new things that I don't want to like necessarily discount that, but but yeah. So, well, I think I'm probably actually going to go ahead and sign off. It's around 10:30 for me, and I do have to work tomorrow. I'll be right back here at my desk working tomorrow. But yeah. So, but thanks all for watching. Is there any questions that anybody had so far, like on what I've been working on? Otherwise, I do post these videos on YouTube. So feel free to watch it there, and then they do stay on Twitch for about a week. Like I said, feel free to follow me on GitHub too. I have quite a few projects up there. But this is the local music app is the one that we're working on specifically. And yeah, if y'all like the bingo game too, I can work on that one as well because there's definitely some things that I want to update there as well. Awesome. Thanks for the follow. And so I'll be signing off now. Like I said, feel free to follow me on Twitter or on GitHub or anything like that. And have a good night, everyone. Thanks again.